Different kind of look at life. There are many different roads and many different curves. Some are cliffs and some are straight roads, and it's a question of how you deal with them. Royal tension is boiling over. Prince Andrew has shocked Sarah Ferguson with a sudden daring demand just after her public humiliation. Palace insiders warn tensions are spiraling, and secrets behind royal walls are heating up. What drove Andrew to act while Sarah was still furious? And what hidden drama is fueling this explosive clash? Join us as we explore the fairy tale that nobody expected. Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew's love story began in a way that seemed almost destined, and their connection was instant from the moment they reconnected as adults. Sarah first met Andrew when she was just 12 years old, but it wasn't until 1985, when Princess Diana invited her to royal escort, that their romance truly began. Within 6 months of that fateful reunion, the couple announced their engagement to a delighted British public, who embraced Sarah's refreshing, down-to-earth personality. Their wedding on July 23, 1986, at Westminster Abbey, was every bit the royal spectacle that the world had come to expect from the House of Windsor. Sarah later described the experience as her Cinderella moment, recalling how nervous she felt coming down the stairs at Clarence House, while crowds cheered "Fergie, Fergie" in the streets below. Her father stood at the bottom of those stairs, and together they rode to the Abbey in a glass coach, both admitting to each other that they had no idea what to do because neither had done this before. The ceremony was watched by millions around the globe, and Sarah officially became the Duchess of York when Queen Elizabeth Roman II bestowed the title upon her. The early years of their marriage seemed idyllic on the surface, and the couple welcomed 2 daughters, Princess Beatrice in 1988 and Princess Eugenie in 1990. But behind the palace walls, cracks were already beginning to show as Andrew's naval career kept him away from home for months at a time. Sarah would later cite his frequent absences as a major factor in their eventual separation, explaining that she spent only 40 days with her husband during the first year of their marriage. Despite the growing distance between them, the couple maintained a united front for their daughters and tried to make their unusual arrangement work. But as the marriage struggled under the weight of royal protocol and separation, an even more problematic friendship was quietly developing in the background. The Jeffrey Epstein connection that changed everything. The friendship between Andrew, Sarah, and Jeffrey Epstein ended up being very harmful and played a big role in ruining their lives. When people finally learned how close they were to Epstein, the world was shocked. Epstein was a rich businessman who was later found guilty of crimes involving a minor. Back in the late 90s, he became closely connected to both Andrew and Sarah. At first, it looked like just a normal friendship in wealthy social circles. But over time, it became clear that their ties to him were much deeper and involved money in troubling ways. In 2011, Sarah publicly apologized for accepting £15,000 from Epstein to help pay off her former personal assistant, calling it a gigantic error of judgment. During an interview with the Evening Standard, she expressed what appeared to be deep regret and promised to have nothing ever to do with Jeffrey Epstein ever again, 3 years after he had already been imprisoned for his crimes. The British public seemed willing to give Sarah the benefit of the doubt at the time, believing that she had been desperate and made a mistake she genuinely regretted. However, leaked emails from 2011 would later reveal that Sarah reached out to Epstein after this public announcement, referring to him in writing as a steadfast, generous, and supreme friend. These revelations proved catastrophic when they emerged in September 2025, because they demonstrated that Sarah's public apology had been misleading at best and deliberately dishonest at worst. Multiple charities, including Julia's House, immediately dropped her as a patron after the leaked correspondence became public. A spokesperson for Sarah claimed the emails were written after Epstein threatened her, but this explanation did little to quell the growing outrage. The scandal also affected Andrew directly, as leaked emails appeared to show him telling Epstein they would play some more soon in 2011. Despite Andrew's public claims that he had cut ties with Epstein in late 2010, while the Epstein revelations were devastating enough on their own, they were about to collide with an even more explosive accusation that would threaten Andrew's entire existence within the royal family. Virginia Joffrey's accusations and the legal battle. Virginia's accusations against Prince Andrew shocked the royal family and completely changed his life. Gior, who was known as one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims, said that Andrew had assaulted her 3 times in the early year 2000. "I mean, it was horrible, and this guy was sweating all over me. His sweat was raining basically everywhere, and I was just grossed out from it. But I knew when she was only 17 and being sold by Epstein." Andrew strongly denied all of these claims and kept saying they were not true. But even though he denied them, the damage to his reputation was huge. People lost trust in him, and the scandal was so serious that he had to step away from his royal duties in 2019. In 2021, Gior filed a civil lawsuit against Andrew in the United States, and the case quickly became an international sensation that put the British royal family under intense scrutiny. The lawsuit detailed graphic allegations of abuse, and Andrew's legal team worked frantically to have the case dismissed before it could proceed to trial. After months of legal maneuvering and devastating publicity, Andrew reached an out-of-court settlement with Gior in 2022. Though he maintained that the settlement did not constitute any admission of guilt or liability, the settlement amount was never officially disclosed, but reports suggested it was substantial enough to satisfy Gior's legal team. For a brief period after the settlement, it seemed the worst might be behind Andrew and Sarah, and they continued their unusual living arrangement at Royal Lodge as if hoping the public would eventually move on. But in 2025, Virginia's posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl, was published after she passed away tragically at age 41 on April 25, 2025. The book reignited the scandal with fresh details about her allegations against Andrew, and the renewed attention made it impossible for King Charles to continue protecting his younger brother from consequences. The timing couldn't have been worse, as additional revelations about Andrew and Sarah's Epstein connections were emerging at the same time. While Andrew struggled with the legal and reputational fallout from Gior's accusations, his ex-wife was fighting her own battle to maintain her public image and royal connections. Sarah's desperate fight to maintain her royal identity. Sarah Ferguson's entire sense of self had become deeply intertwined with her royal title and status, and watching it all slip away left her emotionally devastated and increasingly desperate. For nearly 4 decades, she had been the Duchess of York, a title granted to her by Queen Elizabeth Roman II on her wedding day, and one she retained even after her divorce from Andrew in 1996. The title defined her public persona, opened doors for her charitable work, and gave her a sense of purpose and identity that extended far beyond her failed marriage. When Andrew announced on October 17, 2025, that he would no longer use his title of Duke of York due to the ongoing accusations against him, Sarah faced an impossible choice about her own public identity. Just 4 days later, she updated her social media accounts to remove all references to her Duchess of York title, changing her Twitter handle from Sarah the Duchess to @SarahM. Fergie 15. Royal commentator Jonathan Sullivan described the loss as devastating for Sarah, noting that her identity was tied up in being Duchess of York, and the loss of it allegedly just devastated her. Sources close to Sarah confirmed she was absolutely bereft and completely on edge about her uncertain future. The psychological impact of losing her royal safety net manifested in visible ways that concerned even those who had criticized her past behavior. British broadcaster Helena Chard told Fox News Digital that Sarah was not great and that her nerves are frayed as she faced the prospect of being completely cut off from the royal family that had defined her adult life. Sarah's older sister, Jane, even flew over from Australia to provide emotional support during this challenging period. And insiders reported that Sarah had been on the edge of a nervous breakdown as the full weight of her situation became clear. The woman who once rode in a glass coach to Westminster Abbey now faced the possibility of complete social and financial isolation. But while Sarah struggled with the loss of her title and status, King Charles was preparing to take even more drastic action against his younger brother. King Charles's ultimate decision to strip Andrew of his prince title. In October 2025, King Charles made a decision that surprised even people who had followed the royal family for years. He officially began the process of stripping his brother, Prince Andrew, of the last royal titles. Buckingham Palace released a statement saying that the king had started a formal process to remove the style, titles, and honors of Prince Andrew. From that point on, Andrew would no longer be called Prince Andrew. Instead, he would simply go by his family name, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The decision was very unusual because it was the first time in modern royal history that a prince who was born into the royal family lost his title completely. This shocked many people in aristocratic circles. Titles like Duke or Earl could be given up if someone chose to. But the title of prince was different. It was seen as a fundamental part of a person's royal identity and something they were born with. By taking away even this most important title, King Charles was making a clear statement. Andrew's connection to the Epstein scandal had become so damaging that it was putting the entire royal family at risk, and something drastic had to be done right away. Royal experts universally agreed that Charles had been pushed into this decision by mounting public pressure and the very real threat that Parliament might intervene if the family didn't police itself. The statement from Buckingham Palace also addressed Andrew's residence at Royal Lodge, noting that his lease on Royal Lodge has to date provided him with legal protection to continue in residence, but implying that this protection would soon end. The palace announced that it would no longer speak for Prince Andrew. This meant that he was no longer considered a working royal, someone who represents the royal family in public or takes on official duties. He had no real job or role in the institution anymore. For Andrew, this was the final step in a long downfall. His reputation had been slowly getting worse for years, but in the past few months, things had gotten much worse, much faster. What once seemed like small problems had grown into a complete loss of respect and position, showing how far he had fallen from the life he used to have. While Andrew dealt with the public humiliation of losing his birthright title, the battle over his beloved home was about to reach a dramatic climax. The shocking demand for two homes. The 30-room Royal Lodge had been Andrew's sanctuary and symbol of status for over 2 decades, and his desperate attempt to maintain some semblance of his former life led to a demand so audacious that even his supporters were left speechless. Andrew had signed what was described as an ironclad 75-year lease on Royal Lodge when he moved there in 2003, paying £1 million for the agreement and contributing an additional £7.5 million toward renovations completed in 2005. For years, this lease had provided him legal protection from eviction, but the mounting scandals finally gave King Charles the justification he needed to force his brother out. In October 2025, news reports revealed that Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson were having serious talks with palace officials about finally moving out of Royal Lodge, the large house they had lived in for many years. But when they sat down to negotiate, the requests they made shocked royal experts and insiders. According to sources who spoke to The Sun, Andrew said he would agree to leave Royal Lodge, but only if he was given Frogmore Cottage. This house had once been the home of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle before they moved away. At the same time, Sarah had her own demand. She wanted Adelaide Cottage, which was about to be empty as Prince William and Kate Middleton prepared to move into their new residence at Forest Lodge. In other words, Andrew and Sarah were asking for not just one replacement home, but 2 separate royal houses, one for each of them, in exchange for giving up the single property they currently shared. To many observers, this seemed like an unusually bold and surprising request, especially given Andrew's reduced role in the royal family. The brazen nature of this demand seemed to confirm what many observers had long suspected about Andrew and Sarah's disconnect from reality and public opinion. Royal expert Richard Fitzwilliams told the Daily Mail that they're still living in a rather weird fantasy world if they believed such a demand would be taken seriously. He pointed out that Sarah has not been a working royal since 1996. He questioned why the Crown Estate should provide her with any accommodation at all, let alone a separate royal residence. Royal commentator Jenny Bond was even more direct, telling the Mirror that you have to ask yourself whether Andrew and Sarah are completely deaf to public opinion, given the genuine outrage about their lies regarding their Epstein friendship. But as negotiations continued behind palace doors, the relationship between Andrew and Sarah was deteriorating in ways that would soon become painfully obvious. The lonely final days at Royal Lodge. Behind the impressive walls of Royal Lodge, the bond between Andrew and Sarah, one that had lasted through divorce and many scandals for almost 30 years, was finally breaking apart under heavy pressure. One observer even said the situation felt like something out of a Greek tragedy, full of sadness and drama. People close to the couple explained that Andrew and Sarah were now living separate lives in different parts of the huge house. They only came together for meals, and even then, their conversations were tense and focused on their uncertain futures. The friendship and support that had once made their unusual post-divorce relationship work had disappeared. In its place were feelings of worry, blame, and a dark sense that things were falling apart for good. Sarah, in particular, was described as panicking about what comes next, and not in a good place by multiple insiders who witnessed her deterioration firsthand. She had always been the more emotional one, expressive of the two, and the strain of losing her title, her patronages, her public standing, and now, potentially, her home was taking a devastating toll on her mental health. Royal biographer Phil Dampier told Women's Day magazine that he had been told Sarah was on the edge of a nervous breakdown, and her older sister Jane had flown from Australia specifically to provide emotional support during this crisis. The woman who once described herself and Andrew as the happiest divorced couple in the world now found herself isolated even from the man with whom she had shared this bizarre living arrangement. The couple's encounters, when they did happen, revolved around shared meals where they discussed their bleak options and contemplated a future that seemed to offer only humiliation and exile. They have been heard having some pretty intense conversations about what is going on. One insider told The Sun, noting that both appeared to be struggling with the magnitude of the changes being forced upon them. For Sarah specifically, who had tied her entire identity to being part of the royal family, the prospect of being completely cut off from that world was not just a practical disaster, but an existential crisis that left her feeling unarmed. But just as it seemed, the situation couldn't get any worse for Sarah. Andrew delivered a blow that cut deeper than any public humiliation could. Andrew's shocking demand to keep Sarah away from him. In what may be the most hurtful development in this entire saga, Andrew reportedly made a stunning request of Sarah that she be kept away from him during their final days at Royal Lodge, leaving Sarah feeling even more isolated and betrayed than she already was. According to sources who spoke to Women's Day magazine, Sarah is so angry with Andrew that he's demanded she be kept away from him, which is upsetting her even more. The request represented a shocking reversal for a couple who had maintained an unusually close relationship for nearly 30 years after their divorce, and it suggested that Andrew blamed Sarah, at least partially, for the scandal that had destroyed both of their lives. Some reports suggested that Andrew's unusual demands came from his growing anger towards Sarah. He was upset because her past connection to Jeffrey Epstein had brought even more negative attention to both of them, making an already terrible situation worse. At first, Andrew's own friendship with Epstein had been the main focus, especially because of the serious accusations made against him by Virginia Giuffre. But then, Sarah's old emails were leaked revealing her calling Epstein a steadfast, generous, and supreme friend. These words gave critics even more reasons to attack the couple, and they made it clear that neither Andrew nor Sarah could pretend they didn't know what kind of person Epstein really was. Some insiders even claimed that Andrew blamed Sarah for their troubles, saying that her choice to stay close to Epstein back in 2011 was the original mistake that eventually led to their current problems. Of course, this view ignored the fact that Andrew himself had also continued to spend time with Epstein during that same period, which made his resentment seem unfair and one-sided. For Sarah, the demand was a deeply personal rejection at the moment when she most needed support and solidarity. And it highlighted the fragility of even their most enduring connection. British royals expert Hilary Ford, which claimed to Fox News Digital that Sarah has made it well known among her staff and others that she no longer believes in Andrew and is preparing to go her own way after years of loyalty and public defense of her ex-husband. The mutual recrimination between two people who had once seemed inseparable revealed just how completely the Epstein scandal had poisoned every aspect of their lives and relationships. Royal commentator Jenny Bond told the Mirror she was surprised that it seems Sarah and Andrew are now going their separate ways because she had thought they were joined at the hip, even though no longer in a romantic relationship. While Sarah processed this latest betrayal, speculation mounted about where each of them would ultimately end up once their eviction became final. The rumors about Sarah's move to Portugal, as the reality of their situation became impossible to deny, reports emerged that Sarah was planning a dramatic escape to Portugal, putting thousands of miles between herself and the royal scandals that had consumed her life. Sources suggested that Sarah was eyeing a move to Portugal, scheduled for January, where she would stay at a £3.6 million villa owned by Princess Eugenie and her husband at the exclusive Costa Golf and Ocean Club. The oceanfront residence in Mel, located 82 miles south of Lisbon, would provide Sarah with privacy and distance from the British press that had made her life unbearable in recent months. A wealthy resident of the gated community confirmed to The Express that preparations were underway for Sarah's arrival, stating, "The word here is that Fergie will be arriving sometime in January." Sources indicated that a guest suite was being readied specifically for Sarah's extended stay, suggesting this would be more than just a brief vacation, but rather a semi-permanent relocation, designed to let her rebuild her life away from the constant scrutiny and judgment she faced in the United Kingdom. The move would also allow her to be close to Eugenie while maintaining enough independence to preserve her dignity and start fresh without the baggage of her royal connections. However, other sources close to Sarah insisted that reports of her requesting a royal property herself were completely false and misrepresentative of her actual intentions. A source close to Ferguson told People magazine that, contrary to reports, she has never asked for a property or any provision for herself, and that she is going to be moving out and into a separate home, but was focused on independence rather than royal privilege. The conflicting reports suggested that even Sarah herself might not be entirely certain about her next steps, and the Portugal rumors might represent just one of several options she was considering as she contemplated a future completely separated from both Andrew and the royal family she had served for nearly 40 years. While Sarah planned her potential escape to Portugal, Andrew faced his own uncertain relocation that would mark the final chapter of his fall from grace, the end of an era. The final destination for the former Prince Andrew appears to be a property on the Sandringham estate, a far cry from the Grand Royal Lodge he had called home for over 20 years, and the move represents the complete dismantling of the life and status he once took for granted. According to reports from People magazine, Andrew is expected to relocate to Sandringham, with any future accommodation being privately funded by King Charles rather than through official Crown Estate properties. The arrangement was a compromise that allowed Charles to provide basic support for his younger brother, while simultaneously removing him from the Windsor area, where his presence had become an embarrassment and liability. The Sandringham property Andrew will likely occupy is significantly more modest than Royal Lodge, and comes without the symbolism and grandeur that Andrew had clung to so desperately during his battle to remain in Windsor. Unlike the 30-room mansion he shared with Sarah, complete with its own private park and royal lodgekeeper cottage, Andrew's new accommodations will be a simple residence suitable for a private citizen rather than a member of the royal family. The downgrade sends an unmistakable message about Andrew's permanent exile from the life of privilege and public service he once knew, and it confirms that his fall from grace is complete and irreversible. Andrew's move to Sandringham means he will now live far away from Sarah, making their already shaky relationship even more challenging to keep going. This also ends their unusual living arrangement, since they had shared a home for 17 years after their divorce. Royal experts believe King Charles chose Sandringham on purpose because it takes Andrew out of the Windsor area. That's where Prince William, Kate, and their children are settling into their new home at Forest Lodge. By moving Andrew away, the king is making sure that younger royals aren't affected by being too close to him, since his reputation has been badly damaged. It has also been confirmed that Andrew will not be part of the royal family's Christmas celebrations at Sandringham. Sources say Sarah won't be there either, even though she was surprisingly invited the year before. Do you think Andrew and Sarah's punishment fits their crimes, or has the royal family been too harsh in stripping them of their titles and homes? Should Sarah be held equally responsible for the Epstein scandal despite not facing the same accusations as Andrew? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.